y'all to the VRNation station. We're diving deep into vacation.
All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of the VRNation station, your podcast with a little bit of flavor. Today I have a very special treat. I have Jenn Boyles with us.
Jamie, it's wonderful to be here. Proud supporter of VRNation and love the direction and everything and the people behind it. It's such a great group of people and I'm loving being involved. My name is Jenn Boyles and I'm in Vancouver, Canada. I know I've confused some people because I've been back here about 2 years, but the last couple of decades before that, I was in the UK and in Europe. And that is where my experience in vacation rentals really comes from running my own properties around Europe and the UK, and then starting to help others. So I started to help others in 2020. I think we can all remember what was happening in 2020.
Briefly. Yeah, briefly, I remember.
Briefly. I think a lot of us have blocked it out. But I remember discovering the online world. I had been very much hosting on my own properties, my own bubble. Found the online world as a lot of people did that spring. And Airbnb was canceling bookings. Just remember, they just went across the board and just canceled everything. No communication, nothing. And I just remember seeing the outcry from people. And I was like, why? Why are you guys so upset? Because it should only be a part of your bookings. Like, yes, it's horrible what they're doing, but I had 80% direct bookings. And I had been through the journey of discovering that I wanted my own business and my own control and my own guests. And I realized that there was such potential there to help others with what I had already sort of figured out. So I pivoted and I started to help others in 2020 with their bookings. Now, I don't help with Airbnb. I don't even really look at what they're doing. I'm very much focused on people's businesses that they can build so that they don't rely so heavily on the likes of Airbnb and the other OTAs. OTAs are great. Get on.
And I gotta say, I do love OTA Ollie. I always get a kick out of it because some near and dear friends of mine are literally like OTA Ollie, and they feel like they're just coming out of their hole and they're starting to look around. And for those that don't know, OTA Ollie is Jenn sends out a newsletter that I get, and it's her AI generated mascot of what not to do. And it's pretty clever. So anyway, I always like that. So I just threw that one out there.
Yeah, he's basically my enemy avatar. That's right. How he's been positioned in my business. His name is OTA Overload Ollie.
That's right.
And all he wants to do is be on the OTAs. He doesn't care about anything else. He doesn't care about the guests. It's just about heads and beds and all that kind of stuff. And it's so much fun. So I'm so glad that you like that.
I do. I think it's so hilarious.
Much fun.
I actually passive aggressively have been pushing it to people to be like, hey, Ollie, how's it going? Like, what are you talking about? Like, clearly you didn't read the email I sent you. But right. No, I love it. You're pivoting to helping people and that you don't look at Airbnb, which is something I aspire to do soon. That'd be great. But
yeah, so it's really, the OTAs are fine. They have created such especially Airbnb, like our industry our space has exploded because of their involvement and what they've created, but they've also caused a lot of problems as well. And if this is a hobby, if hosting, I was talking to somebody earlier today and they said that their daughter's in-laws have just started putting their house in Greece, out for rent. And I go, well, great. That's awesome. If it's sitting there and nobody's using it, start renting it out. If it's a hobby, that's great. If you want to create a real business, if you need that money to pay the mortgage, which is where I was when I started my book direct journey, or if you're wanting that money to live on, then you can't spend all your time hosting on Airbnb.
Right.
Because you're not in control.
Right. And it's interesting how many people are, they don't know any better. And my position in business development is always interesting because I'll have conversations with people And it's the inevitable, like what I run into when I'm trying to flip a homeowner, like for homeowner acquisition and bring in properties. And I have people that are doing it themselves. They can't wrap their head around not being a part of it. They cannot wrap their head around not being a part of Airbnb. And I'm like, to me, it seems like such a no brainer, but the pain to switch is it's an interesting one. Like you really have to show the pain for them to really want to move.
It is. And it is a mind shift. It really is a mind shift. I started on Airbnb and I was a super host. I drank the Kool-Aid. I loved it. And it wasn't until our third property where we were in a saturated market. It was in the Austrian Alps. So picture, sound, and music. It was gorgeous. I loved it. But our chalet did not stand out against all the other chalets because they were equally as gorgeous in the same area, right? In the same town, really. And that's when I started looking outside of the OTAs of how I could bring in bookings. Book direct bookings wasn't a thing. I didn't know these buzzwords, these industry terms that we use now. It was just, what can I do to get my own guests as a business so that I could pay the mortgage and create the life and the business that I wanted to create. And then with our fourth property, I was able to create an 80% direct booking business from day one.
Wow.
So it was when Airbnb was shutting everybody down in the pandemic. And I was like, what do you mean? You haven't had the same journey that I have had?
Right.
And I see it today too. Like I still see, and we're all in those same Facebook groups. And, even people saying I've been shut down, my listings have been turned off, I'm losing not just money, but I might lose my property, because of a misunderstanding or something where the OTA has not come to them and asked them to have a conversation.
Right.
And people are still blindly trusting that this company out there cares about them.
Right. And I can assure you, they do not.
Yeah, they don't. They care about their bottom line. The guests that you have in your property are their guests. You are a supplier of accommodation. That's all you are to Airbnb.
Right. Exactly. And if you don't fit what they want, goodbye. They move on, and that's it. Yeah.
Yep. And usually without a conversation.
Jen, I'll tell you, I can tell you, I know that firsthand. And the new wrinkle that I love is how they just automatically refund and don't even. And if you try to say, why are you refunding this guest? They're like, oh, because they complained about bugs. You're just like, they didn't even step inside the house yet. Yeah. It's
Yeah. Oh, your house is blue. I don't want to stay there. Give me a refund.
Right.
Yeah.
The best is when they ask for the refund while they're still there. That's the best. Like, and then they try to blackmail you, like, you're going to give me a refund or I'm going to give you a bad review. Like, those are my favorites. And now even Airbnb.
Well, that's it.
Yeah. They're just like, sorry, we can't do anything about that.
Yeah. And so the problems that this has created, when you go through direct bookings, there's not this being held hostage from one side to another. We're talking about hospitality. We're talking about giving a great guest experience. And there's a lot of hosts on Airbnb doing that, of course. But we've created a culture where people know that Airbnb and the other OTAs, it's a review-based system. And they know that they have that power. And there's always going to be people out there that try to sort of cheat the system, if you will. But if it's direct, you don't have those problems.
Right. That's a good point.
You don't.
And it doesn't, interesting.
You can put off the people that are going to come to cause problems. You put them off. You make sure that there's no parties. You talk about who is your ideal guest. Who do you want to stay there? And that's who you market your property to. So if you don't want the big bachelorette hen parties, then we talk about how quiet it is and how cozy it is. And we talk about, family friendly and these things. We don't talk about the great nightlife down the street.
Right.
So
that's completely logical, which is funny because it kind of pivots a little bit. But I did want to ask just for a brief summary of the class that you taught in Austin. It was pretty funny how many people had come up and talked to me about your class. Just, of course, I missed it because I was doing a podcast, but I was like, that sucks. I really would have liked to have seen it. And of course, then you and I met afterwards, and I absolutely love the conversation and I adore what you're doing. And I think it's just terrific. So maybe just give a little bit about the class that you had taught, and then we can maybe dive a little bit deeper into some of the AI type discussions that we were going to hit on.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But it's always good to have that foundational conversation of where we are and what we're looking at right now in our space. And I am really leveraging AI. I am a marketing expert for direct bookings, and I'm leveraging AI right now because I'm in love. I absolutely love it. I can supercharge what I've been doing with clients, and people are getting the results, and it's fast. And oh my goodness, it's really, really, really exciting. It's not just a bit of fun, and it's just a lot of excitement. So yes, the class that I did is that we did we basically put together a marketing plan, but we didn't just we did it with our own brains at first. And then we segued into how AI could do it and how AI could do it faster and better, but by keeping still our brand voice. And this is where I think a lot of people are going wrong with AI. And I'm talking specifically about the content generation, Chat GPT, Claude, sure, those type of software, is that we're putting in generic information.
Right.
And
like
so
people don't know how to prompt. They don't know how to engineer their prompts is basically what it's going down to.
Yeah. But it goes beyond prompting. I've created a whole host of AI assistants, and now getting into AI agents as well that actually do the work for me in my brand voice, knowing my company. And it's fun to sit there with clients and just see their eyes go wide and their mouth drop open and they go, "You can do what?" And I said, "Yeah, you don't have to do this manually anymore, but you have to know how to do it correctly, or it will just be, crap in, crap out."
Right. Right. Or it'll just give you a bunch of, it is crap out stuff that just, it looks right, but it's not right.
That's exactly it. That's
Awesome.
exactly it.
That's interesting. So let's talk a little bit about the AI assistant, for example. Let me back up and ask you, what's your preferred platform, or are you multi-platform?
For content generation, I prefer ChatGPT over Claude and the others. OpenAI, I guess I've kind of hung my hat there. And that's sort of where I'm creating things. I'm using a multiple of other platforms, AI platforms, for image and video and other creation, app creation. But ChatGPT is the one that I have open all day long, every day.
Yep. That's funny. I have, between Gemini, ChatGPT, I have Google Studio. So I've just been playing with everything, man. Like I'm trying to be like a one-man band, with the kazoo and the guitar and the drum.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a heck of an educating, or I should say educational curve for me. But I've never really dabbled in the creation of the assistants. How do you use an assistant in regards to content creation and like I had a list of questions about like listing management and things like that, but when we're talking direct bookings, it's really more just website content. Like, what do you use an assistant to? What do they do? I don't get it.
Well, it's website, but it's marketing as well. So email and social media. It could be a podcast, long form video, blogs. There's so many ways of marketing your website, right? Because a lot of people think, I'm just going to back up for a second. A lot of people will do that first step and create a website, and they're like, "Yes, I'm on the direct booking bandwagon. This is going to be awesome."
Right.
And then the bookings don't come in, and they're like, "Well, this is crap. I've been sold a lemon here."
Right. I've spent all this money on a website.
Yeah. 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 Or I've had my dog's friends, brothers, cousins, uncle create something. And the thing is that you have to drive the traffic and you have to do the marketing. And then the next question I get was, how can you compete with the OTAs and Airbnb? They have these massive marketing budgets and everything. And it's like, I'm not going after the mass market. I only need so many guests a night, depending on how many properties you have. And that is what I'm marketing to, and my ideal guest. And this is where when I'm using ChatGPT, my ChatGPT knows me inside out. It knows my business. It knows everything I do. I've loaded it with so much information that I have assistants that can do things in my business exactly how I would do them.
Got
And
it.
that's what I love, is because, when you get a VA, and I love having VAs, but they're human.
Right. Yeah. There's a
And
learning curve that they have to absorb.
There's a learning curve, but there's also, maybe I can do that in a different way. Maybe I have a better way. And sometimes it's like, yeah, that's great. I love the ideas. Other times it's like, can you just do this exactly how I've figured it out already? Because I've already worked out all the kinks and the bugs and everything. So my assistants, I've worked that out. I have created them with my processes in the back end. And I've created them for my clients. And I launched this year the SDR Content Lab, where we are creating content, marketing content together each month, 2 hours, 1 2-hour call a month. We're creating a month worth of content.
Okay.
And how we're doing that is we're using the AI assistants. So I have created these assistants that have my framework in the back end. So it will prompt them. It will ask them, the person using it, their details. Okay. And so I have assistants to help with creating brand voice, image prompts, ideal guest, tone of voice, all this kind of stuff. And so the assistant will say to you, okay, I'm here to do this task. Tell me your company details and what you want to focus on. And then it creates it. And it's not prompting. Prompting is how we've started with ChatGPT and AI content generation. The prompts are behind the scenes. I've already done all the hard work.
Right.
Okay. So
did you actually build the prompts, or did you have another AI build prompts for you? Because I've learned that kind of mini cheat code too, of just having them build my prompts for me under this auspice, and then just going through and reviewing it.
Yeah, well, I've created the best prompt, I guess, architect, if you will. So I can go into it and say, I want to create a custom GPT. This is what I want to do it, and it will put it in the right format that ChatGPT likes. So I use ChatGPT to create the assistant's, code and instructions, and then create the assistant.
Yeah, it's funny. People they don't understand that they can do that. So there's I don't really see what the benefit of this is. It's like a glorified Google search. And I'm like, well, yes, it is a pretty kick-ass Google search. I don't use Google to search for anything anymore, right? I just don't. Because it's easier just to pick up my phone and click Gemini and be like, hey, Gemini, tell me this. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, look at that. Everybody else is still trying to surf Google for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's there's a lot of things with AI that I've found. So from my perspective, I try to use it for, well, I'll share my mistakes with you, and I think you'll find humor in them, right? So I have actual virtual assistants from the Philippines, and they're wonderful. However, when, I'm working at Gabino and we have cabins in the mountains, right? They can't really wrap their head around a $2.5 million house in the mountains, right? It just doesn't,
right, of course,
compute, right? So when we're doing, updates to our listing management and our content, and I'm just like, hey, it's okay, just use ChatGPT. Let's take a look at it, right? And of course, that somehow got skewed into update all of our listings. And we had all the icon flags and dashes and everything in every single listing. And I get this phone call in the middle of the night from my the owner of the company. He's just like, what are you guys doing to my site? So we had to unwind that one. That was fun. But yeah, it's if you're not, if you don't go the next step a little deeper with AI, I think it can really run away with you.
Well, that's right. That's right. And the stat that I have heard lately is that 95% of people are using the likes of ChatGPT, Gemini, that as a glorified search engine. 5% of people are using ChatGPT as a partner in their business, not just an assistant, but a partner that is there to help them grow and run their business. And then 1% of those 5% are actually creating tools and apps and whatnot. And I find it fascinating. I'm like, me? So I'm in the 1%. That's crazy. Because
in the
if I can do
5%.
this, no, but if I can do this, anybody can do this. But I also have found out that I have to work now to support my AI habit.
Right.
Because I love it so much. And I was talking to one of my best friends who lives in London, and he has just created a song for a nursery with AI. He wrote the lyrics. He created the voice. He created the music. I was like, I'm doing videos and images and content and stuff, but he had done a song, and I was like, this is awesome. And
That's
then I'm
so
like,
funny.
I'm gonna
Our
lose
intro
so many
song,
hours.
right? Our intro song, everybody thinks it's me. No, it's not me. It's AI. But yeah, it was actually pretty funny.
That's
Blake
it.
Blake was the one who's like, we could make an AI song, and I'm like, okay. He's like, here, he sends me like 5 versions, like in 2 minutes. I'm like, wow, okay. It's just like you said,
That's
it's been
it.
this learning experience, man, where I stepped into the world of AI, and now I'm going, oh my god. Like I actually I was playing around with building an app. To be honest with you, I was gonna build some software just to see if I can. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean,
It
it's
is.
it's truly cool how you're doing that, and and using it to generate. So talk to me a little bit about your content lab, because it's one of my to-dos is actually to reach back out to you to talk through even from a Cabino perspective and how the content lab works. And I'm just curious, like what do people expect inside the content lab?
Well, I'll tell you the background first. I'll tell you the background of the content lab and how it came to be, and then I'll totally explain what we're doing in there. Because it really is just so much fun if you're interested at all in marketing and AI, and even if you're not, if you just want to get it done so you can get on with all the other parts of the business you like, it's a great place to be. So I started out 5 years ago helping people. And through this process, I've been educating, not just about what direct bookings are and how important they are, but also how to get them. And I still saw that people weren't quite getting their marketing done. Some were, but some weren't. So last year, I created my own CRM, Book Direct Pro, which is based on high level. And I'm really proud of it. And I said, okay, I've done the education. I'm now giving everyone the tool to use to do their marketing. And I still wasn't seeing people actually getting it done. The end of last year, I took some time to really think about what I wanted to do. Where do I want to spend my energy? And that's when I realized, how am I going to get people to do their marketing is to do it with them. Is to set up basically a container, a membership, a monthly thing that we sit down and do the marketing together. So I took all of the education that I have been doing in the last 5 years, all of the systems and everything that I built manually, AI-ified them, I guess, if you will,
Sure.
supercharged them with AI. And the response has been amazing. And the content that people are creating is fantastic. And the bookings are starting to come in. And that is what makes me so excited. So happy that I've taken this leap with people, and the clients have taken the leap with me. So what we do is we sit down every month for 2 hours and we create the content, and we use ChatGPT, and we use this team of assistants to help create it. Now, there's 2 things that are really, I guess, the secret sauce of the content lab. One of them is that we've really dialed into who our ideal guest is. And you can have multiple ones, of course, but who that main ideal guest is, because that's who we want to talk to.
How do you know
And
that?
I would love,
Just out of
and I would
curiosity.
love to give that assistant to anybody watching. Anybody watching or listening who wants that assistant, I'll give you the link, Jamie, and you
Okay.
can offer that. It's the exact AI assistant that we use in the content lab to dial into that ideal guest.
Okay.
The next thing we do with that guest is we look at what they need to think, feel, or believe in order to make that booking. And that is really lacking in most marketing that you see out there.
Yeah, it's not mine.
The marketing that you see out there is stay here, look at our great hot tub, great view, stay here, stay here, stay here, book, book, book. Yeah, guests want to feel like you are talking right to them. And how do you do that? You go through what they need to believe to book. And so we're using ChatGPT, one of our AI assistants, to dial into what they need to believe. So I'll say to everyone in the lab when we start, okay, what's your booking hole there? Looking at your booking calendar, that's where we always start. Where do you need booking? So we say we're doing our content for the month of August. If August is booked, let's not talk about August.
Right. It's done.
Yeah. When do you need it? Is it Christmas? Is that what you want the booking for? Well, then that's what we need to talk about. So what does your ideal guest need to think, feel, or believe to make that booking for Christmas? And that's what we center our content around, and we create the assets from. And that's what stands out for booking inducing content.
Can you give me an example of what that would look like? So when you say you're creating content that would elicit feeling, in my mind, I'm thinking like it's some level of verbiage, but I'd love to hear more about like, what does that mean to you?
Well, let's see. I don't have an example in front of me, but let's see if I'm as good as the AI assistant. I'm probably going to fail. But you would look at your property and your ideal guest. So let's use the Christmas example. Okay, so your ideal guest, say they're coming as a multi-generational family, and you want them to rent this place for a week at Christmas. So it goes through the different beliefs that they would need to have, sort of why now, why them, why here, why worse. It goes through all those different sort of beliefs that they would need to have. And some of the content would be things like this place is going to be booked. Like this is rare that it's open, and we have to think now in August about our plans at Christmas for us to take advantage of it. That could be something that they would need to believe, that they need to book it now. They can't wait. Another thing would be about the space for every person in their family, and maybe the memories that they're going to create. It's not just Christmas at Auntie Pat's. This is going to be a memory-making vacation for the whole family. So we're getting under the ideal guest's skin is really what we're doing. We're not staying on that surface going, sleep 6, 4 bedrooms, nice view. That's a listing. And that stuff's important on your website and your listings on the OTAs, because people need to be able to see exactly what they're getting. But in your marketing content, you're wanting to invoke a feeling, and that the guests can see themselves there staying at your property.
And now would that delivery method be email, web? How do you deliver that message to that target guest?
Email, social, blogs, videos, anywhere, printed material.
Omni-channel approach. So you're taking an omni-channel approach where you're hitting it like an email, followed up with some web stuff, followed up maybe with a text message, things like that. Is there a rhythm that you would recommend, or is that something that comes out of the content lab that says this type of message? Here's the mediums that you want to go through to deliver it?
One thing I do say to people, it depends on where they are in their marketing, and if they're just starting out or if they're looking for a way to just make this process simpler, because you became a vacation rental property manager or a host, through different ways. We've all sort of fallen into this space, but there's going to be very few people that have said, yes, I can be an accountant, I can be a cleaner, I can be a business forecaster, and I can be a marketer. Yes, yes, yes. So the idea is that you don't have enough time to do all these things, and you don't need to do all of these things. You can hire people to do them as well. But the marketing is best coming from you or someone that you have trained that knows your business inside and out, and you can get it done. So if I said to you, you have to post every single day on all these platforms, people would go, yes, no, thank you, no, thank you, no, thank you. I'm not doing that. It's too much. So I have a 4 post a week, we're talking social, 4 post a week framework called Beam that really shines that light on you and your property and what you're providing. But I say to my clients, because I've got some that are like, I'm not there yet. I can't do 4 times a week. We'll start with 2. The idea is to be consistent, but strategically consistent with good content that speaks to your ideal guests and what they need to believe in order to book.
So whenever I talk to you, my head spins because I'm just like, oh my God, right? Like, so I literally, let me tell you just what my marketing efforts were alone this week, right? So I've been looking for leads because I'm on a homeowner acquisition kick right now. Like I'm really trying to get a bunch of homeowner acquisition marketing out the door to a couple different markets. Because of course, Camino, we have multiple markets, different states. So the messaging is different for each location. It might have a, the brand voice still resonates, but the message is different, right? So you can't market in Florida the same way you market in Idaho because the messaging and the people are different. So it's yeah, my head spins a bit because I'm just like, oh my God, if I can get out 3-4 posts and then I'm like, we have one Facebook channel and 4 locations, and how do I bring all this together? Like that's the stuff that makes me lose sleep. So it's interesting that you've got AI assistants that you've trained to really lay all of this stuff out.
Yeah.
Really.
And we're using Book Direct Pro as our marketing tool for our scheduling, for our funnels, for our automations. And I've created automations in there so that, we just need to personalize them and they run, so it's doing things smarter. And AI has given us a huge opportunity to get on with this, get things set up, and not be left behind. AI isn't going to take our jobs, but the hosts and the property managers that use AI are going to get the bookings.
Gotcha. That's interesting. So many questions. So I'll peel back to a couple of things. Maybe let's talk about the content creation with AI. And it's one thing where, if certain people say, you know what, I'm gonna keep going this on my own. I'm gonna keep going this on my own. What are some of the, if I look at it, I think one of the big things that hit me, and this just came up the other day because I was working back with, can't remember who I was working back with. We were talking about our website because I was having issues with my website and I was looking at Google Counsel. Oh, I was actually talking to a Google rep. That's who it was for ads. And as we were talking through, one of the questions that popped up was, like you said, the 95% use AI for, basically an advanced Google search. How are you recommending people with their direct booking sites start to cater to that AI search? Is there any difference? Is SEO dead? Is it going to fade? Is it evolving for AI searching? Like, what have you seen in that?
Yeah, no, that's a really important question. SEO is not dead because we're still using Google. I still use Google. As much as an AI fan I am, I still use Google for things. It depends on what I'm looking for. In fact, I am creating apps and assistants. And it was just this week that I used ChatGPT for the first time to create a recipe, which I think is one of the first steps a lot of people take. But I took a step back and finally did something basic with it. And it worked out really well. It was a really yummy recipe.
Is that the one where you showed it like, these are all the ingredients in my refrigerator? What can I make? My wife did that too. It turned out fabulous. See, it's a great thing to try if you've never done AI before.
I basically told it the 2 ingredients it had to have, and then it made it for me, and it was a Thai fusion tofu noodle. It was amazing. Anyway,
what is in your fridge,
I digress. But that's, these simple things that a lot of people are doing, which is great. I think just getting your head around AI is a great place to start because it's not going away. It's going to keep going and going and going. My daughter's just finished grade 3. They had to do a book project and they were doing it on this online book maker. And she had to create the illustrations. And, you could draw a stick person or bring in stock images. And I said, why don't we create them with AI? So I showed her Magi, which is another tool I use. And we went through and she painted the picture that she wanted, like with her words. And we created illustrations for her book, when the teacher showed it to the class was a little blown away because everyone else had stick figures that they had drawn or stock images that didn't have anything to do with it. But, this is what she's going to grow up with, that she can just create what she wants. She can create the atmosphere, the environment, anything, which is fabulous. And AI search is not going away. And technically, there are some things you can do to your website to help with that. But SEO is still important. And we have to remember, too, that AI is drawing from the web, from Google results, from different things, right? So it's like a multi-layered approach, and they're all important now. We just have to remember that because AI has opened things up, that there are some things that we need to do as well.
Got it. Yeah, it was one of those where I just was like, oh man, there's some kind of breadcrumbs that we have to put, like some kind of widget on our site that's going to be, AI friendly, but it's really not. So that's good. I'm glad that you answered that question. Some of the other things that I hear too, and it's what's the best way to even ask this question? There's generally people that have doubts about what's coming out of AI, the quality that's being returned. And I can always spot a junior AI detective that is rewriting an email because I'm just like, you would never use those words, right? So I've learned, like, training my AI, like, hey, when you're writing stuff, you're writing it at like an 8th grade reading level, because then people will know, like, all right, maybe he wrote that. But if all of a sudden I'm using like advanced MBA words, I don't think they're going to buy it.
It's crazy. I know. And ChatGPT has ruined the M dash. I have always enjoyed a good M dash in a sentence. And now they're everywhere and we're all taking them out because ChatGPT puts them in all the time, right? But they are a good thing for sentences. But yes, no, I totally get it. And, it ebbs and flows, doesn't it?
Yes.
We will go one side and then we'll start to center again and that. So it'll be interesting. But I know I'm taking out emojis, I'm taking out M dashes, all these kind of things, and trying to use them sparingly, where in the past, there was emojis everywhere. But I know what you mean. When you open an email and you see all these emojis, M dashes, green ticks, you're like, we know where you got that.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where, again, when I try to train myself a little bit. And the other thing I learned as well is, like, you have to be very careful with, especially when you're explaining the economics of something. Like, I was trying to explain the economics of the booking, the OTAs, to someone who was doing it themselves, and they're coming over to us for property management. And I was trying to explain to them, and all of a sudden it's like, I wrote this long email, and I'm like, oh God, that's really long. So I try to put it in summarizer. It came back and changed all the formulas, and it screwed it all up. And finally I get this call, like, I don't think these numbers are right. I'm like, what? I look back, I'm like, oh man, I should have put that in there.
We have to read everything. And that's where our human power comes in. Right. Like we said at the beginning, crap in, crap out. If you're giving good information and you are checking the output, don't blindly copy and paste. We don't, nobody needs that. And you know what? When I send an email and I leave an M dash or I leave in a green check or whatever, I'm not embarrassed that, yes, I've used my assistant to help me with this. And I think there's nothing wrong with using ChatGPT as your emails and whatnot. It's just making sure that the content is actually factually correct. Because if you don't give it enough context, that's when chat starts to hallucinate.
Yes, that's valid. The one thing that I found interesting, and I'm curious to see how you do this, content, especially for social, like, I don't have a photographer in every location. I don't have somebody out there with their smartphone. I could get cleaners, I can get maintenance people, I get property managers in the areas just like snap pictures and send them to me, but there's like zero context. And so, of course, while I'm trying to write copy for an advertisement, I don't have any pictures that actually fit. So I started to play around with ChatGPT, and I got into Sora, and I was using Sora to create pictures, which is pretty good. I've switched over. I've used Midjourney for pictures and images, and Google Studio has quite decent image creators. But, what I found is like I had to be very specific for my locations. Otherwise, I would just get some rando, like fly fishing is a great example, right? I mean, if you put the wrong mountain chain in the back of a fly fishing picture, you will get the randomest comments from people like, there's no stream there. I know that place, right? It's just like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, this is made up. This isn't even real.
Yeah.
So
And we
I've
have
learned
to
to really
remember,
code it.
yeah, we have to remember that it's best to have images, and because the same way that we're fact checking chat and Gemini or whatever for the output, we need to be marketing in a way that is authentic. So, but AI is amazing to fill the gaps when you don't have those images or those assets that you need. But image generation and video generation is a whole other subject, because you're painting a picture with your words and how you use it. And it's exciting to watch the hosts in the STR Content Lab coming together with this. And what a couple of them have done in the last week is bringing in AI generated images with images from their properties and creating a reel or a carousel where
That's
they're
interesting.
mixed, because you can create something like, if you're looking at for people models and that you don't have in your photos, one of them was a child in a swimming pool. You don't need to see the whole child, but you're just seeing a taste of it. And then you see the actual swimming pool in the image. There's other ways to get around not having those assets. And that's where AI is so powerful, really powerful, but it's also fun. So I've cloned myself, I've cloned my voice. And if you're following me on social, this week I jumped out of a plane. Last week I was a Viking on the fjords.
All right, Jen, what I gotta, so this is, I
The week
didn't follow you
before,
on
yeah,
social, but I'm
I
going
was on
to.
safari. I was on safari with elephants. And the week before I was hanging off a cliff as I was rock climbing. So it
Is this
is
under your
fun.
name, or what's your Insta
It's
site?
at Direct Booking Success. That's okay.
I'm following now. That is too funny.
Yeah. But it's amazing. There is some fun things that we can do. And I know that AI, I was listening to a podcast the other day about the film industry, the entertainment industry, and they're saying, actors aren't going to be out of jobs, but illustrators and what you can create for an animated film. Like they take hundreds of people and they take years to create. That's going to, it probably already has been, they're going to generate them a lot faster with less people. So it's looking around you and seeing where AI can fit in, but it's not going to take over us as humans. We need our humanness, our human superpowers to sort of start the process and have the ideas. We can use AI as a partner in image generation, but you're the human, you're the one in charge.
You have to have the vision. Like you can't,
Yeah.
it's not going to be like, hey, you know what, Jamie, here's all the stuff that you need magically. Right? It doesn't just go poof. Like you have to still have vision. You have to have at least some direction. And when you're feeding the prompts to the machine, it has to be, the more detailed the vision, the better the outcome you're going to get. That's what I've found some success in, is just being like, okay, if I can, and I also find it, I don't know if this is right or wrong. So you let me know if I'm doing this wrong, but sometimes I will stop typing because I have lazy fingers, and I'll just hit my, my record button, and I'll just speak to it like I'm trying to give it directions, like I'm telling a kid what I want it to do. And then it'll be like this long prompt. And it usually gets it done. I do run into some video softwares that choke because I'm trying to like explain for a video that I'm trying to create, and I'll get like a 5-second video of like a little bit of it. So I'm still trying to figure that out. But is that something that you would do normally? Would you just talk to it, or is it something you physically type everything out?
Talk to it on a walk, as you're walking out there, or when I get lazy typing, talk to it as well. But I've also created an AI assistant to help me create the prompt for an image, so that instead of going to Canva AI, Midjourney, Magi, Sora, all these Flux, all these different tools, and starting from scratch, I'm going into Chat GPT and going to my image generation tool assistant and telling it what I want. And it is creating me an AI friendly prompt that I can then put into the other programs. So
Gotcha.
you're using AI the same way that I use AI to create assistants. I've got a sticky note. I don't even know where it is. I think it's underneath something here that says AI first. Whenever I go to do something in my business or for my clients, I'm using AI first, trying to.
Right. Right. 'Cause
Sometimes I
it gives
go
you
down
good.
a huge rabbit hole, but
Yeah, that is true. That actually, it's funny because that leads into I just looked at our time. We're at 50 minutes. I'm like, because like at the beginning we were laughing about, like, man, we could go on for hours with this stuff because it's so relevant. But it's funny because one of the concerns I have, right? Because I get into it, right? So, and I am a big cheat stealer kind of guy. So I like go to Discord, right? And I'll go follow AI groups, and everybody posts these images, and they actually have, if you're in the right groups, they have contests to see who could create the best generated image, the best generated video, and then the actual prompt is available to it, right? And so I don't know about you, but I think the Bigfoot, the Sasquatch videos, right? Like the AI. I mean, some of them get pretty nasty, but between the Sasquatch and the Yeti, and of course, I'm just like, I want to be able to create one of those. Like that's my goal. I want to just create something because we're in the mountains, right? I mean, it'd be kind of a cool video, social image thing if I could generate that and create some buzz and get that out there and around. But it's one of those where like trying to get the outcome in your mind is very difficult. And what I find is I get down this path, like that bunny trail that you're talking about. And my concern is like once I start down this AI path, that I almost change my own mind and vision starts to warp towards something different, and I've lost center. And I get worried about that because I don't know how often I've done it, but I know when I'm just playing with stuff, I find myself doing it all the time.
yeah, but we need time to play as well, because that's how we're learning these things and how we're figuring out how we can bring them into our business. And that first idea may not work. You might be like, although I do think your idea is pretty darn good, and we can talk off camera of how you could do that. But it's, you find out how you can bring things in, right? You can find out how it's teaching you something that you can use later because we're learning. We're learning. My daughter, said to me today on the way to her summer camp, we went past her school and she goes, I don't think I'm going to go to school in September. And I was like, really? How do you think that's going to work? And she goes, well, you just sit and look at computers all day. Why can't I do the same thing? And I'm like, it's coming. It's coming,
Enjoy your life while you have it, kid.
Exactly. We've got to play. We've got to get out there and learn and then figure out how this is going to fit into our lives. And it's the same with AI. We have to experience it. And if you're listening to this or watching this, I just really implore you, if you haven't started down the AI path, is to just go and get an account and just type, hi, how can you help me? And see what comes back. And I will give you a link to our SDR Content Labs ideal guest generator. And you start it and it asks you questions and you just answer them. And it gives you a full picture of who this person is, their attributes, what they like, how they travel, and different ways they travel. It'll also give you a little image of who that person is.
Wow, like a little avatar.
Yeah.
Nice.
A little picture that you can put on your computer. You can print it out, put it on your computer, and say, every time I make something in my marketing, it's targeted at them. It's directed to them.
That is a great idea. That visual accountability is huge. Yeah. That's huge. And I'm looking forward to trying that out for sure.
Well, and I don't use the words avatar, persona, any of those words, because the ideal guest to me has to be a real person. It has to, and that visual does help with that. And I remember before AI, I remember a client going through the exercise that we did manually that took a lot longer, was a lot more energy to do. And she, at the end of it, went, my ideal guest is my sister-in-law. How come I never saw that?
Right.
So she went and got a picture of her sister-in-law and stuck it on her desk. And so everything that she did for marketing was directed at her sister-in-law.
Wow.
And that's what we have to do with our ideal guest. It's not an avatar. It's not a made up person. It's a real person that you want to bring to your properties.
That's a great idea. I mean, if I could, I have so many things spinning around my head, but let's just say for one of my areas, if I could figure out who that is, I could actually use that person to bounce ideas off of. Be like, hey, how would you feel about this? Like, what is this? When I show you this, like, tell me the first 5 things that pop in your head. Like, that's extremely helpful. I think that's extremely powerful for people as well. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I'll give you that link.
Yeah, definitely. I will definitely use it. You know that. So, that's fabulous. All right. So we're at 56 minutes. So I promised I wouldn't hold you hostage all afternoon, but I am going to ask one more question. Before I do that though, I am going to ask the audience to please, if you guys can go out and like and follow and subscribe, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Spotify, or soon to be Apple channel, please like, follow, subscribe, comment, share, watch the whole video, listen to it in your car. It's amazing. Give feedback. If you guys are just like, Jamie, I can't stand listening to you talk, that's fine. Let me know. I appreciate it. Like any feedback's great feedback regardless, but I always have to plug for my listeners because ultimately, this is what we're doing it for. You and I have chatted a couple times, and of course, it's always a treat for me because I learned so much. But let's just put it this way: pull out your crystal ball, Jenn, and what I want you to spin for me is, how do you see AI changing the way that STR businesses manage their online presence? Like, how do you see this? Is it just going to be the way, or is there a tail that people can still take advantage of?
I think that there's plenty of room for more people. And, we're still in the early adapters. So I don't think that if somebody was listening right now and said, Ikes, I haven't done this yet, you're not the stragglers yet. If 95% of people are still just using it as ChatGPT as a Google like search engine, the main bulk of the population aren't here yet. But I think that there's going to be a time when you have to get on board or you will be left behind. And I think I said this earlier, whereas people are like, oh, AI is going to take my job. No, not really. Some of them, yeah. There are going to be some jobs that'll probably go, but that happens in any advance. Think about the Industrial Revolution.
Right. Or the calculator or the computer or the internet, right?
Do we see any lamplighters out there? Do you see anybody scooping up poop on the main highways? No, because we evolved, right? And those people would have lost their jobs at that time. So it's going to happen. But I think that if there's going to be a time where vacation rental hosts, just like any business owner, will start to be left behind because those who are using AI are getting more done faster, more honed in, more focused on who their ideal guest or client is. And because it's easier to do now more than ever. And I think it's going to get easier and easier and easier. And I would love to see the future. I would love to see, 50 years from now, I'm not going to be here in 50 years, but I would be really curious to see what this happens. But even 5 years from now, 10 years from now,
right,
things are a changing. And this is the time to jump on and go ask ChatGPT to make you a recipe. Start there.
Right. Start somewhere. It's I didn't even tell you the story. My mother, she's 79 years old, and we were driving to get my father, who's getting his knee replaced, right? Everything's great. He's doing fine. However, we started talking about AI. No idea how the conversation came up. And she shared how fearful she was of AI. And I kind of sat there and I listened to her and I'm like, why are you so afraid of AI? And of course, it's the Terminator movies. It's the, the imposing, overlords, or how it's, the machines are going to start learning and take off and we're going to be left in the dust. And I just kind of sat there and I'm like, have you ever actually used AI? Do you know what it's about? My mother's an artist. She's been a painter for a long time, and she's still got most of the control in her hands, but she's not able to find image anymore. And I said, let's play a game. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, take your phone out. And I said, you have Gemini on your phone, right? She's like, yeah, I have Gemini on my phone. I'm like, well, hit Gemini, open it up. She's like, it's open. And of course, she's older, so she's got all the voice automations on. I go, push that button, and I want you to ask it, what is the fastest way that a 79-year-old woman who is an artist can learn and use AI most appropriately for her? And she's like, really? And I said, go ahead. So she did it, and it laid out a step-by-step plan that says this is the best way that you can learn. And I said, how many steps are in there? And she goes, oh, wow, that's a lot. It's like 15 steps. I go, okay, great. Tell it to summarize even further. What's the easiest path to just start? And it took like all the way down to just a paragraph of here is what you need to do to just get kicked off. And that was exactly it. Like, AI is going to teach you how to use it. And people don't understand that. It's like the biggest fear factor that, like when the internet came around and everything else, that they're afraid. I mean, these are people that don't hesitate to like put their social security number on a card and drop it in a box for a free lunch, right? Like, come on, don't do that. But it's interesting, and it's just it's going to be a refreshing, a new world for sure. And I'm with you. I think it's going to be something super, really, really cool that's coming down the pipe. I'm really interested to see what new industries start to sprout. I'm already seeing the universities start to change their curriculum. I see a lot of AI-driven education. My daughter, who's in big data, she's going to St. Lawrence University for big data, and her class structure is changing already. So it's really interesting to see how fast things are shifting with AI as they're coming. Well, I'll tell you what. I thank you again. We're at the hour mark, so I'm gonna end it here. I appreciate you coming on so much, Jenn. You have no idea. As always, you're just a wealth of knowledge. I hope our listeners have really gained something. And once again, go ahead and just pump your business and how people can get a hold of you and contact with you.
Well, the best place to find me is on the web, directbookingsuccess.com. And there is a page there for the STR Content Lab, so you can find out more about it and join the wait list. If the doors are closed, you can do that. Socials, it's at Direct Booking Success, along with YouTube, my podcast, the annual summit. Everything that I do is online and LinkedIn. Let's connect. And yeah, I look forward to it.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you very much for joining us, Jenn. And it really is a pleasure. For everybody listening in, I hope you've gained some information out of it. If you have questions, thoughts, concerns, if you want to hear more, if you want to hear more about something specific with AI, please just reach out into the comments with whatever platform you are listening on. Or you can email us at VRNation.com. There's a link on VRNation.com to get a hold of us. But again, Jenn, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Jamie. It's been wonderful.
All right. Everybody have a great weekend.
Welcome y'all to the VRNation station. We're diving deep into vacation rental sensations. From management tips to the latest creation, join us each week for some sparkle and conversation. VRNation station, tune in and feel the thrill.